Hi, welcome back to MArEaZi Premium Photography. If you just joined me, then it's probably because you came from the last video that we did on the clone stamp editing. Right now I'm going to show you guys how I do my frequency separation. We still have the two layers right here. I'm actually going to merge these layers. Merge visible. Now you don't have to merge layers if you don't want. I actually do merge my layers because I have a layer that's not messed up, and I keep that in my Lightroom. So I usually merge my layers. So let's show you how to do frequency separation the way I do it. So you want to duplicate your layer. You can name your layer if you want. I'll name this one blur. I normally don't name my layers. And then we're going to duplicate the blur layer and name that sharp. So when you duplicate your layer, you'll have a blur layer and a sharp layer. So for the blur layer, you're going to select the blur layer. You're then going to go to filter. You're going to bring it down to blur and your filter. And then as you can see right here, I have it set up as Gaussian blur. And that's because I use Gaussian blur often because I do frequency separation often. So when I do my headshots, I make sure my pixel radius is at 14.9. I find that 14.9 is a good radius when you're doing headshots. I shoot with the Canon EOS R. There's enough megapixels in this shot where I can use a radius of 14.9. Hit the OK button. Now onto my sharp layer. On my sharp layer, you want to go to image, and then you want to go to apply image. Once you go to apply image, you're then faced with this screen right here, and you basically want to take keep your source the same, but keep your layer, put your layer on the blur layer, right where it says layer. Keep the channel at RGB, that's fine. Put the blending mode on subtract, okay, and then you want to change your scale to 2, and then you want to change your offset to 128, and what's that? Preserve transparency, keep that the same. Mask, keep that the same. Don't check these boxes, right? So that's how you set it up. Blur, RBG, that's going to stay the same. Don't invert it. Blending, subtract, opacity 100, scale 2, offset 128. Don't mask it, and don't preserve transparency. Hit the OK button. Once you hit the OK button, you'll see that you have a gray image, and you basically need to go to right here to your blending modes, and you want to put this on linear light. When you put it on linear light, you basically bring your image back to normal. Now, if you take off the blend layer, you'll see that you have an overly sharp image, right? Keep your background copy on, but take the blur layer off. Overly sharp image. Those are the details of your image, right? Turn off the sharp layer. Now you'll see a super blurry image of your image, right? So when you have the blur and the sharp together, you have a balanced image. And this balanced image, we're going to be able to blur some things to blend color, and we're going to preserve a lot of the sharpness so that the photo all around doesn't have a different feel, or it's not overly retouched and stuff like that. So let's get started. All right, so for starters, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my lasso tool. This is your lasso tool. I know you can hear the clicks from the mouse. I use the mouse and I use the trackpad at the same time. I haven't transitioned in using just the trackpad just yet. But I use a Y-cone tab. You know, makes things a little easier when you're editing. So you grab the lasso tool. The lasso tool is right here. Lasso tool. Bam. Now what you're going to do is you're going to grab areas of skin that are a different color. So if you look at the makeup of her face, you got light tones here, light tones on the cheek, light tones on the nose, and a little bit of light tone right here on her chin. So if you look at the direction of the light, it was hitting her from on this side here. You can even see the light inside of her eyes. And then you can see the bouncer on the other side of her eyes. That's why the other side's not too dark, but it's dark enough to create some depth in her face. You want to keep that same depth so she can look 3D and she doesn't look overly sharp and blurred. So I like to do a frequency separation on my midtones. Now, with the lasso tool, I have my feather at, I have my feather at 30 pixels. So when I grab the area that I want to retouch, it's going to go over by 30 pixels. And I find when I do my headshots, that's a good way to blend without having harsh drop-offs of skin. So at this point, you select the area that you want to do. You go to filter, and then you go to blur, and then you go to Gaussian blur. Now see I have the shortcut. I set up the shortcut so that I can do this easier. Makes your workflow faster. Okay? So it's now at a 14.9 radius. I'm sorry. I didn't tell you what layer to select. That's actually good that that happened, because as I stated in my first video, this is live editing. So I'm actually editing with you. Make sure you select your blur layer when you want to add the blur. So let's try that one more time. Let's reselect that area. And let's go to filter, and let's go to blur, and then let's go to Gaussian blur. Now I'm on the right path. So we're going to move the slider up, and as you see, when I move the slider up, it blends her face. And the higher I go up, the more blending it does. Now see, at this point here, it's too blended. How do I know it's too blended? You can see actually the inside of the lasso is getting darker than the outside of the lasso. You don't want that. You want it to blend normally. So I'm going to bring it down some. Okay, so this looks about good. It's actually, maybe it's a little too much. Let me bring it back. Okay, you see this light part here where the box is? This part here is actually a smooth transition. And then this dark here with this dark here, it's a smooth transition. The mid-tone color here with this mid-tone, it's a smooth transition. So I'm going to keep it at 47.2 and hit OK. There's no exact number that you can use. It's a feeling. So when I take the lasso off, you can see where it was retouched, but you don't see harsh lines of areas that are retouched and other harsh areas that haven't been retouched yet. So that's a good sign. You just want to blend the colors. I'm going to use my shortcut because I have that already set up. My setup is for me to do a shortcut with the Gaussian blur. So I would suggest that you set up a shortcut if you're going to be doing a lot of frequency separation as well. Now, with that being said, I did the side of the face. When you do your frequency separation and you turn it up too high, I can actually grab color from an area I don't want color. So let me show you, for example, what that would look like. I did the Gaussian blur again, and I'm going to turn this up a little bit more. You see this gray area? It grabbed from this gray area here. So I definitely don't want that. So I'm going to hit cancel because I already selected the amount that I needed for that area. But that's just to show you that you can create harsh colors in your model's face if you overly retouch. A area that you see that the most is when you're retouching next to clothes and fabric. You can drag some of that color from the fabric onto the model's skin, and that's not good. So let's grab this dark area on the opposite side of her nose. And I say the opposite side because you have a lighter side and you have the darker side. Okay, so, and in this case, you might not want to have your radius so high. You might want to scale it back a little bit because you don't need as much color smoothing on this side as you would on the medium side. So I brought it back down to about 30.3. Again, there's no exact number. It's just a feel on how the picture looks. I'm going to grab this cheekbone. Notice how I grab things in a swooping motion that flows with the skin. You definitely want to keep the skin flowing because nobody likes an overly processed photo, right? Hit the glossy and blur again. And in this case, I might just want to take it up just a tad more. Let's see. I took it up to 38. Reason why I took it up to 38, you see these areas right here? Yeah, it's hardly noticeable, I know. But I blended it so that it all looks natural. And then when I do this, everything blends in. No one ever notices that was there. I'm going to also go under this eye. Now notice I'm staying away from the highlight. I'll show you what I mean by that. So she have a highlight going down her nose. She have a highlight on her cheekbone. I want to stay away from these two highlights because you want those highlights to look as natural as possible. I always say when you go too heavy with frequency separation, you can take away from the photo. If I were to actually go over top of that with the frequency separation, I would take away the highest, brightest parts of the photo, which can potentially make the photo stand out that much more, or say, wow, that's too processed. And so I'm going to stay away that because I want the photo to stand out that much more. Now we're going to go to the bridge area right below the nose and right above the mouth. Now as you can see on this one, I actually blended the light area with the dark area. And that's good because it's going to just create a smooth transition. We don't want her to look like she has a mustache because she don't, and we don't want to create that look that she do. And so right now I'm going to grab an area on this side, on this cheek, on the dark side. And I'm going to hit the Gaussian blur. The most important thing to do on here is preserve as much cheekbone as possible. Also, you want to preserve natural looking dimples right here. That's a good one. Keep that. That brings character to her face. Now I'm going to the medium to the light on the chin. Oops. Try that one more time. And stop right before her mole so it doesn't get caught up in the sweep. If I catch her mole in the sweep, it might discolor it, or it might discolor around it. Either way, it's not going to be a favorable look. So I brought this up a little bit more to 36. With the medium colors, you can play a little bit more. I've noticed through my experiences. And now we're getting under the cheekbone here, and just pay attention to the details. Let me show you something. All right, so I didn't break the plane and go over this side because I want to keep this retouch separate from this side of the retouch of the frequency separation, right? I made sure to keep it within line so that it stays clean, but it also smooths out. So that area here and here and here, 3 different colors, let's smooth that in. Okay, so that's smoothed. It's at 34. Let's go a little bit more and see what we can do. All right, so 38. I'm gonna keep that at a 38. That looks good. So altogether, it looks good. Now let's do some a little bit of minor cleanup. We're gonna go right here, the hairline to the eyebrow, bring it down. Now look at what's going on. We got this area, which is medium dark, light, and then right here fades off to the medium dark. So we're going to retouch this area with the Gaussian blur, but we're not going to do as much. We're just going to blend it slightly. And we put that one at about a 38. Reason why we wanted to do that way, because we want to make her forehead just like smooth and just like how we perceive her when we see her in person. We don't want any frown lines or any like harsh forehead like veins and stuff like that. So we just smooth that out a little bit. Sometimes actually I do this as a final step. I go here and then I go on this side of the nose, bring it back up, and then bring it back on this side of the nose and bring it back up. That way you can get in between the eyes, get it nice and retouched. Something real simple. And it just gets all of those frown or angry eyebrow parts out of the way. And not to say that she has angry eyebrow parts. I'm just saying for the sake of making her look as joyful as she looked on the photo, we want to make her look like, you know, her natural self in real life. And so I cleaned up those areas here. If I take off the blur and the sharp, you can see what I was talking about. Let's select that real quick. So you see this area here with this line here, that's the area that I was talking about smoothing over. And you see where her temple is right here? That's also another area that I was talking about. So this particular shot was shot with an 85mm 1.2. So we all know that the 85mm 1.2 is great for portraits. It renders the face perfectly. So we want her to look as perfect as she looked in real life on the camera. All right. So let me just get her neck area. I usually get the neck area in one swoop. And for this, you don't want to go too heavy. You don't want to have like an overly smooth, like smooth chest. No, just enough where it blends the colors. Oops, I'm actually on the wrong layer again. Why ain't nobody tell me I was on the wrong layer? I'm sorry. Like I said, I'm editing live, so you're going to see some stuff live. All right, so let's go bring it back to it. So now we're on the blur layer, and it's actually affecting it, and that looks good. So if you look at the photo now, compared to where we started, it looks really good. I'm actually not going to do nothing with her arm in this case, because I just think it looks good already. I don't think there's nothing that we have to do with that. And with that being said, I'm going to wrap up this video. Please tune into the next video. I want to show you guys what I do to sharpen my images, what you should sharpen and what you shouldn't sharpen. Tune in. I can't wait to see y'all. Subscribe, hit the like button if you want. I appreciate you.